There are moments in Formula One when the story that will define a team's future doesn't play out in front of the cameras. It happens in closed rooms, behind locked doors, in the hushed exchanges between people who understand that the smallest decision today could rewrite the next decade. That's exactly what happened between Silverstone and Spa and Lewis. Hamilton walked into a private Ferrari meeting carrying a plain folder that might just have changed the course of the team's destiny. The headlines that week talked about Hamilton's cue to exit in Hungary and Charles Leclerc's pole position, but that was all noise. The real story wasn't on the track, it was in that folder. Inside wasn't a race report, wasn't a list of setup tweaks. It was, according to insiders, a 2026 development blueprint so detailed, so deliberate, that Charles Leclerc himself never even saw it. This wasn't a feedback form. It wasn't maybe adjust the suspension a little, or try softer on the front wing. It was a manifesto. Active aero deployment maps, hybrid power distribution strategies, suspension geometry revisions, even pedal box positioning and steering feedback curves, every single element tailored to Hamilton's driving instincts. This wasn't about the car Ferrari has now. It was about the DNA of the next generation Ferrari, written and delivered by the man who hasn't even raced a single lap for them yet. One engineer present at the meeting said Hamilton spoke like a technical director, referencing airflow separation points, cooling efficiency margins, and CFD pressure plots as if he had been studying them for months. Leclerc, meanwhile, told the press he was definitely involved in the development process. But involvement isn't influence. Involvement doesn't get you private briefings with the head of chassis. It doesn't put your initials on a confidential roadmap. It doesn't give you veto power over gearbox ratios. Hamilton now has all three. The silence that followed was telling. No official statement from Ferrari, no smiling social media posts, showing two drivers working side by side on the future. Nothing, because in Maranello, silence isn't nothing, it's the sound of something big happening that they're not ready to talk about. The document Hamilton handed over wasn't just a proposal, it was a driver's dossier, the kind of thing you'd expect from an engineering chief, not someone sitting in the cockpit. It contained precise weight distribution targets for the smaller, lighter 2026 chassis, recommendations for aero balance under the new active wing regulations, and demands for a steering column with adjustable feedback profiles to match his feel for corner entry. Even brake migration maps were tuned to Hamilton's aggressive style in slow corners. And once something is in writing in Formula One, it's not just an idea, it's precedent. Months from now, when engineers argue about a design choice, they can point to that document, Leclerc's verbal feedback, that fades by the next race weekend. Former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya saw it immediately. His warning that life will get harder for Leclerc suddenly stopped, sounding like speculation, and started sounding like prophecy. This isn't about lap times in 2025, it's about who owns the momentum inside Ferrari's walls. History has shown what happens when a team's design DNA gets wrapped around one driver's style. Schumacher at Ferrari, Alonso at Renault. The car begins to breathe with that driver's rhythm, and everyone else is forced to adapt. Right now, the simulator data is already showing the split. Hamilton's sessions are exhaustive dives into ride height tolerances, aero balance through transient corners, steering maps for surgical precision, extreme brake settings, and correlates CFD flow data with live telemetry to validate his instincts. Leclerc, by contrast, prefers to adapt naturally to what the car gives him, reacting rather than dictating. In a normal year, these philosophies could coexist. But 2026 isn't normal, it's a total reset. Smaller, lighter cars, a 50/50th hybrid, split, no DRS, narrower tires. Once the chassis is born to Hamilton's specs, adapting to it later won't just be difficult, it could be fatal to a title bid. This is more than engineering, it's politics. In Formula One, influence is currency, and Hamilton is spending it with precision. Those closed-door meetings, the technical dossier, the fluency in engineering language, it all positions him as an architect of Ferrari's future, not just its driver. Leclerc still has speed, still has the points advantage, but results on paper mean less in Maranello's glass offices than shaping the DNA of the next car. The engineers tasked with creating Ferrari's 2026 weapon will remember who gave them the clearest solutions, who addressed their frustrations, who made their jobs easier. Over time, loyalties shift quietly, until one voice becomes the default. Authority. By the time Leclerc realizes the center of power has moved, it may already be too late. The 2025 season will end long before this real fight is decided. Every race, every simulator session, every debrief now carries extra weight, not just for points, but for shaping Ferrari's identity in the new era. Hamilton's blueprint is already circulating in departments. Leclerc rarely steps into Montoya. Warning hangs in the air. The harder Hamilton pushes, the more the team bends. And when the first active aero flap moves in 2026, it may carry more than downforce, it may carry the signature of the man who designed the battle to win from the inside out. If you've been watching Formula One long enough, you know that the fastest driver doesn't always win the championship. Sometimes, the driver who shapes the car wins everything. So tell me, do you think Leclerc can wrestle back control? Or has Ferrari already chosen its future? If you're following this power shift as closely as I am, hit subscribe, drop your thoughts below, and buckle up because this story is only just beginning.